Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today with my colleagues here for the next hour or so to present and exchange on the Cluster 2 Work Program 2023 of Horizon Europe. My name is Frank Sivan Thomas. I'm head of the Fair, Green and Digital Transitions and Research Unit of the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, DG Employment. We are a relatively new unit, which was set up in July of last year to reflect the new role of our Director General as Research DG under Horizon Europe. Our mandate, in short, is to promote policy analysis, policy development, and research and innovation in support of a strong social Europe in general and of fair, green, and digital transitions in particular. I'm here with a number of my colleagues whom I will present later during the session who will help me today to answer your questions. We are working in DG Employment and in particular on Destination 3, which will be center stage for this session, on two main work strands. First, we are co-chairing Cluster 2, which means to collect inputs from all colleagues and units in our house, to collect inputs from member states in the programming committee meetings, and to take into account, obviously, the position of the European Parliament and to consider the input from R&I stakeholders, including through the open public consultations and the exchanges we are having and have had at 3 R&I days, the main event of DG Research and Innovation. We believe that this led to this program part we're discussing today to be more employment and social oriented than ever and to deliver on our commitment to ensure a social impact of the Horizon Europe program, while at the same time keeping a good balance of topics covering most of the elements listed in the legal text of Horizon Europe and this first strategic plan covering the first 4 years of the program. The second part of our work is to mainstream social and employment and skills aspects throughout the program and to strengthen the integration of social sciences and humanities overall, from the legal basis to the strategic plan, notably on the key strategic orientations for creating a more resilient, inclusive and democratic European society, to topics under other parts of the Horizon Europe program, from clusters to pillars and from missions to partnerships. Today, we obviously focus on the topics under Destination 3, innovative research and on social and economic transformations. The work program 2023 in this area includes the following topics: remote working arrangements and the economic, social and spatial effects, towards sustainable economic policy paradigms, global shortages and skills partnerships, bridging the migration research to policy gap, efficiency and effectiveness of investment in high quality education and training, mapping of longitudinal data and assessment of inequalities in education, training and learning achievements, tackling European skills and labor shortages, integrated care solutions for better quality, person-centered long-term care and territorial inequalities in their provision, addressing housing inequalities in a sustainable, inclusive and affordable way, and tackling inequalities in the green and digital transitions. I will not spend time describing these topics in detail, given that you had already the chance of reading the topic texts and of listening to the quick presentations recorded by the European Commission colleagues and made available online. But let me stress that together, these topics aim at adapting the performances of a relevant number of institutions related to the employment and social sphere to the changes brought forward by the macro drivers of change, notably migration, technological developments, globalization, and climate change. These include modernization and improvements on, for example, pension, health and care, education and training, welcoming and integration of migrants and refugees. It also aims at reducing inequalities, reflecting on the nature of economic growth and on the need to better capture the different dimensions of social progress, and increasing the resilience of Europeans and European societies and economies against recent or future crises. I'm here, as I said, with colleagues from Director General's Research and Innovation, Education and Culture, and Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion, who you can see on the screen and who have been instrumental in developing these topics and who are available today to answer your questions you may have. I will quickly present you the colleagues who will intervene. So from our Director General from our unit, we have with us today Alessia Fulvimari, Thais Gonçalves, and last but not least, Simona Rosini, who is Cluster 2 Sherpa in DG Employment. We also have from DG Employment Diana Erikssonaite, who's from the Social Protection Unit in DG Employment. From Director General for Education and Culture, we have with us today Nuria Diaz Guardia, who will answer questions on education and training and the related topics. And from DG Research and Innovation, Michael Moscow, I have to look up your name, apologies, Moskovakos, who will answer all questions regarding integration and welcoming of migrants in this topic. I will invite colleagues to say more about themselves if they wish when answering their first questions today. Indeed, we believe, all of us, that today is a good moment to reinforce the links between research and policy making. As you know, the President of the European Commission has named 2023 the European Year of Skills. Skills indeed have a strategic importance. They are key for research and innovation in general, and they are obviously also essential, instrumental for employment and social performances and for fair and green transitions, as was mentioned before. The President, in her 2022 Speech of the Union speech, gave us a clear indication, for example, on the role skills have to play in achieving fair transitions. We also have in place clear policy frameworks at the EU level, notably the European Pillar of Social Rights and its action plan, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals, notably SDGs 1, no poverty, 3, good health and well-being, 4, quality education, 5, gender equality, 8, decent work and economic growth, 10, reduced inequalities, 11, sustainable cities and communities, 12, responsible consumption and production, and 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. All of these strategies and policy frameworks orient our policy actions. From these, a number of other initiatives are generated, and they're worth being mentioned today as they also relate directly to R&I and policy making in this area. This includes in particular the European Skills Agenda, the European Education Area, the European Care Strategy for Caregivers and Care Receivers, the Just Transition Mechanism, the Strategy for the Rights of Persons with Disability 2020 to 2030, the Gender Equality Strategy 2020 to 25, the LGBTQI Equality Strategy 2020 to 25, the EU Anti-Racism Action Plan for the same period 2020 to 25, and last but not least, the EU Roma Strategic Framework for Equality, Inclusion and Participation. Last, but definitely not least, several topics that my colleagues will present today could also contribute to the implementation and monitoring of the Council recommendation on ensuring a fair transition towards climate neutrality, which was adopted last June as part of the Fit for 55 package. Through this Council recommendation, Member States committed to adopt measures which address the employment and social aspects of climate, energy and environmental policies, and to put in place comprehensive policy packages that ensure a fair green and fair green transition, for all. This recommendation highlights in particular the key role that research and innovation has to play in this transition and for making it a fair one, and also on the importance of a sound evidence base for its implementation and monitoring. The recommendation, moreover, encourages certain actions to support people most affected by the green transition, for instance, by stimulating the creation of quality jobs and facilitating access to safe working conditions, protecting health and safety in the context of climate change and the green transition. It also puts a focus on education and training measures and invites Member States to integrate the employment and social aspects of the green transition in the development and implementation of relevant national strategies, including in the context, for example, of the European semester and also the Energy Union and the national energy and climate plans. Hence, there's a huge opportunity for R&I stakeholders to develop new tools, services, and processes, and to enhance the evidence base for monitoring and implementation that can pave the way to a better and fairer future for all of us. I suggest and call upon you, let's try to build together. With this, I will now open the floor for your questions from the audience, using the same approach as followed in the previous two sessions on the previous two destinations. We already have received a number of questions with which I can probably start, but I encourage you to feed your questions and to submit them in Slido. And we will take them up, and I thank in particular my colleague Andrea Mitrofan, who's the only colleague you do not see on the screen today, but who helps us channeling and identifying your questions and making sure that they will not go unnoticed. So with this, Andrea, unless you tell me, I start with the questions we have already received at the outset of the meeting, and then I'm open to any other questions that come up. We have received a few questions, as I said, at the start of the meeting. The first ones are questions of horizontal nature that I would like to address to Simone, if you can take them. So the first question, which was asked about in relation to topic 2, towards sustainable economic policy paradigms, but it's a general one. The question is the maximum EU contribution to this topic 4 million euros? The work program PDF has contradicting information on this. Can you take up this? And then I will read out the other ones as we go along. Thank you. And if you want to say more about you, please use this first chance you have.
Thanks a lot, Frank. No need to advertise myself. I will go directly to reply the question. So the Commission here estimates that an EU contribution of between 2 and 3 million euros would allow these outcomes, the outcomes listed in the topic, to be addressed appropriately. Nevertheless, this doesn't preclude submission and selection of a proposal requesting different amounts given the body of work present in this field, since it's more than 15 years that it is very relevant in the research field, and that we have received several requests since the open public consultation at the beginning of the process, even before the launch of Horizon Europe itself. There was a lot of interest from researchers and academia in this field. So we think that between 2 and 3 million will be enough, but we have a maximum of 4 million in case the consortia think this is useful. Technically speaking, the reason of the discrepancy is that there is a financial margin that either stay in the topic if the best proposal requests a bit higher amount, as I was saying before, or can be used with other margins in other topics budget for financing reserve list topics when politically and scientifically justified. So this is the full explanation.
Very clear. Thank you very much. Follow-up question still asked on the same capacity and support action. Is it possible to channel funds to organizations, non-beneficiaries, that need financial support to participate in the network?
Thanks a lot. So it is certainly not possible to give financial support to non-beneficiaries. This is for sure. Horizon Europe general annexes are very clear about this. The project can have associated partners who do not sign the consortium agreement, but they cannot receive EU funds. Since cascade funding was not foreseen in the topic test. This could have been the only way for derogating from general rules, but given that the cascade funding is not present in the topic test, then I mean they can participate if there are non-beneficiaries, but they cannot receive any financial support.
Thank you very much. A third horizontal question. How much can the project overlap, build on, or incorporate outputs from other Horizon Europe projects? Do outputs need to stand on their own?
Thanks a lot. Also for this question, I mean, it is a CSA, so it is expected that the winning project build upon existing evidence, be it from Horizon Europe projects or be it from other sources. I think that the expected outcomes are clear and they can guide already here as the fact that the topic itself it's a CSA, so they need to build upon existing research and go beyond through the network and the science policy dialogue. The first expected outcomes of the topic are an established network of relevant policymakers, academic experts, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, fora, and networks working on beyond GDP policy frameworks and measurement of multidimensional well-being, including national statistical offices or other national authorities in charge. They also mention an effective science policy dialogue to increase the usability and acceptability of beyond GDP policy frameworks and well-being indicators. And the third expected outcome is policymakers at European national level well informed about how to better incorporate well-being considerations into their work. So they have to build upon, and then they have to stand on their own. I mean, if the budget is pretty wide, between 2 and 3 million, but they can go up to 4 million again. So there is a lot of resources to have a thorough horizontal check and literature review, and then build upon this to help policymakers and to go beyond what is already available. It is a classic CSA.
Okay, thank you very much, clear. They should build on existing or other projects, but also stand on their own, clear. A last question on this CSA to you, and then you can lean back for a second. How do you propose to include European agencies or services or international bodies into the project, if not eligible for funding? Including if not eligible for funding, I assume.
The topic mentions explicitly JRC, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. Now, the modalities for cooperation with the JRC in projects were already explained in a previous presentation. So the question was received yesterday. I think that it was already explained. Anyway, the modalities hold horizontally for all the projects where this is foreseen. This is the case only for this topic in destination 3 for 2023. We will have other topics in 2024, but it's not the case. So I mean, it's an horizontal provision. It's for every other topic. In the case for and this is the case for the JRC, which is explicitly mentioned. And if they want to build on other services, if it's a European agencies, well, they cannot be funded like before. International, well, it's for the same as for every other topic of Horizon Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. Like for all other questions, we will upload the answers to your questions, obviously also under frequently asked questions. I would like to move on to 2 questions regarding topics 05 and 06. So this is on efficiency and effectiveness of investment in high quality education and training. 05 and 06, mapping of longitudinal data and assessment of inequalities in education, training and learning achievements to you, Nuria. So the first question on topic 05, is the expected focus only on quantitative research methods?
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify this point. So it is in the description of the topic, we mentioned very clearly quantitative research methods, and in particular causal analysis. This is because it's a strict criteria of eligibility, so it's required. But this still, it's perfectly possible. It's for you to decide when you're preparing your proposals to complement this methodology with qualitative methods of research and complement and have a mixed method approach. This is perfectly fine. You can complement, you can enrich. It's up for the proposals to decide this. And anyway, the research and innovation funded in Horizon Europe, and especially in Cluster 2, is very much about mobilizing multidisciplinary expertise, ranging from European social sciences and humanities to understand the transformation. So it's very well suited. And what is important is to collaborate with the relevant authorities. And this is also an eligibility criteria. Voilà, that's from me. I hope it clarifies the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Otherwise, please come in with follow-up questions if you wish. On the second topic on mapping of longitudinal data, there's a question whether the topic gives the possibility also to carry out original research to complement the mapping and collection of longitudinal data. Is that the case?
So it's good that the question asks about complementing, because it's perfectly possible to do this. So the topic is open on that front to complement, but you need to make sure when you're preparing the proposal to meet all the expected outcomes. And what is really required is to map and collect the data that exists with a longitudinal design, and also to analyze them. And it's really important to have this longitudinal design so we can follow the pupils and the students over time. And if it's possible to complement this work with original research, it's up also, again, it's up for you when you're preparing the proposal to decide if it makes sense or not. It's possible, but make sure you meet the expected outcomes. And this is also from my side.
Thank you very much. Before we go into the questions which may have come up since the beginning of the session, one last question we got before the session on topic 10, tackling inequalities in the green and digital transitions. The question here is on the target group. According to the topic, the target groups are mainly individuals. Would it be okay to include companies like micro businesses and SMEs in the target groups to be assessed under this topic? Who can take that question?
I will take it, Frank. Thanks a lot. The reply is of course, as far as the proposed research and the innovation remains within the scope of the topic and the response to the expected outcome. So anyway, it's independent experts that evaluate proposals, and they do that against the topic text and destination description. So these are the two main parts that are taken into consideration by experts. So as long as the micro businesses and SMEs fit with the scope of the topic, the expected outcomes, and the destination text, please include them. They are an important part of having a fair twin digital transition, and they have to play their role. They can play a role in tackling and reducing inequalities.
Okay, thank you very much. With this, I'm ready to turn to Slido. If there are questions coming from the floor, feel free to submit them. We are here at your disposal for at least another half an hour. Andrea, you have to signal to me if we can expect something. Otherwise, we have a few horizontal questions, but they are not related to specific topics. So maybe let's give priority to questions regarding the topics of the work program for the time being. Okay. We go to the general ones, hoping that they will stimulate your further interest. There are questions regarding, as I said, not the topics as such, but general topics, or whether certain themes would be relevant and covered, in particular regarding to aging. So there are two questions in relation to the aging society. Does this refer only to quality and accessible healthcare, or is cultural inclusion also considered a relevant research topic? Maybe that's, I don't know, Nuria, a topic for you, but you let me know if somebody can come in. And the second related question more generally in relation to aging, is digitalization in relation to aging a relevant topic? Somebody can come in on those, Diana? Thank you.
Yes, hello. I'm talking here on the topic of integrated care solutions leading to better quality person-centered long-term care. Maybe the questions is relevant to this topic because here, of course, definitely aging plays a role because of aging, long-term care needs are increasing and we have shortage of workers, carers, and so on. So this topic, in a way, addresses the topic of aging, but here we are talking about integrated care solutions, so integrating different parts of formal, informal long-term care and social and health care. And again, also digitalization comes into this topic because we are asking, one of the outcomes is to explore promising practices and the potential of using ICT solutions to support integrated care. So as far as the question relates to these topics of long-term care, so these topics of digitalization and care are mentioned under this topic. I hope I answered the question because it was very general, so my answer I see is also very general, but definitely aging and digitalization are relevant for this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not see questions on Slido, but Simone, you told me you see a question.
Yes, I see a question for Diana on her topic, the one she just replied also now. Is it necessary to focus both on aging elderly people and people with disabilities, or can we address outcomes focusing on one group only?
Well, the text does not specify target groups. So, I mean, as long as the project meets these outcomes, which are also very general, increase understanding of integrated care. So whichever group you propose to address, that you demonstrate that these outcomes are addressed. So yes, I mean, the target groups are not defined for this topic, but I was talking about aging because it's sort of relevant to the long-term care topic, but this topic doesn't just address older people, let's say. I hope I answered.
Yes, thank you very much. Somebody who wants to comment on the general question regarding the link between digitalization and aging. I assume there are many interesting links, including not only digital solutions towards addressing challenges related to the aging society, but also probably a general reference and respect for the European Accessibility Act and obviously the development of digital solutions with a view to the accessibility and use of all groups, including older people. But colleagues who want to add something on this general question? Because I can unfortunately not see any questions on Slido. I'm sorry, so I guess you have to put them in the chat, please, Andrea, if you don't mind, and then I take them up there. Slido is empty on my desk. One question, thank you very much, regarding topic 7, which is tackling European skills and labor shortages. The question there from the audience is, how broadly should sectors be covered when the call text says should cover all sectors? Who can come in on this one, Simone?
Yeah. This is relatively straightforward. So there is a complete list of NACE code. So NACE, the nomenclature of economic activities, which is the European Statistical Classification of Economic Activities. NACE group organization according to their business activities. So you follow the list. It's pretty straightforward. You start from A, which is agriculture, forestry, and fishing. You go to B, mining and quarrying, C, manufacturing, and until U, activities of extraterritorial organizations and bodies. this is the standard reply. Then, of course, it depends from the data set you can use. Not all the data set include maybe all the sectors. So there are some data shortcomings, of course. But that being said, there are pretty standard. There is a clear standard European reference for sectors, and we expect the applicants to stick to this. Then, of course, we will understand if there are some data shortcomings, or in some database, maybe some sectors will have are low populated, so in a way we can expect maybe low reliability, and in this case they have to be omitted. But this is what we mean by covering all sectors.
Thank you very much. I see now more questions coming in. Maybe I would like to come back to the topic 6 on mapping longitudinal data and assessment of inequalities in education, training and learning achievements. For you, Nuria, there was a follow-up question. Does the call fund only desk research, or can it include also a piece of field research of qualitative nature to complement the mapping? Maybe related to the question we had before, whether it can complement.
Yes, thank you. And I will then clarify that yes, it can be complemented. So the desk research of the data and the surveys that exist can be complemented with your research, as long as it complements and that you're making sure when you're writing your proposal that you're meeting all the expected outcomes. So yes, it's possible. Yes.
Thank you very much. 2 questions on topic 10, tackling inequalities in the green and digital transitions. Regarding baseline scenarios and scenario building. What is the expected scope of scenario building? How many scenarios? And similarly, what's the scope of these baselines? How many baseline scenarios is the Commission? Does the Commission expect to be analyzed, or what's the scope? Is it national, regional, or local? Maybe that's some question which we also have to come back in writing, but somebody wants to come in.
Yeah, I can take this one as well. So first of all, the text of the topic says the proposals may be a forward-looking exercise, possibly making use of scenario building. So it's not something that is strictly required. That being said, we do not want to be very prescriptive here. We think that we rely on you, research world and researchers and academics, because I think that after you make a thorough assessment of the situation, you take stock of what's already available, you make literature review, and you start your analysis, you will be in a better position than ourselves to decide how many scenarios are needed in order to describe the risk for inequalities that are within the green and digital transition. So I will say as many as needed, with the obvious caveat that if they are 1,000, then they are difficult to grasp. Let's say I would say as much as necessary is a fair reply. Concerning the European, national, and regional focus, I would say that it's important to focus on the challenges. So if a particular challenge of the transition is more clear in a regional with a regional example, use that one. Whereas if it's more obvious, if it's more general, then use a European lens. I think it's a bit a parallel with the subsidiarity principle. I would say that you take the European level where it's the most appropriate, but then if you see that it makes more sense a national scope because a particular country has particular challenges, or even more a particular region face a particular challenge with the green transition or digital transition, maybe I don't know, a region with a long mining tradition and great presence of carbon industries, then they have then they can be particularly relevant, but it's a case that will be specific to that region or to similar regions which have similar challenges. So it very much depends on what you are willing to stress and what you think is relevant to stress in order to provide policymakers with a recommendation that can be useful in order to tackle and reduce widening inequalities effect related to the twin transitions.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe I may want to add here that I think one focus of this topic probably is also on the updated baseline scenarios, without being prescriptive, as Simone said, on what the exact scope and number is. Those of you interested may be aware that there have been a lot of studies, the long-term vision of 2018 underlying the European Green Deal, or also many impact assessments underlying the Fit for 55 initiatives. Also a staff working document accompanying the Council recommendation on fair transition, which I mentioned. But obviously in the new geopolitical context and the new developments, and at a time where also work on a 2040 intermediate target is advancing, there's a lot of work going on into the update of these baseline scenarios. So I would encourage interested researchers also to factor this in the work. At least that's how I understood. If there are more questions, we obviously will also upload further detail on the FAQ question online. 2 questions, Nuria, on topic 5. Again, efficiency and effectiveness of investment in high quality education and training. Can the proposal be focused on specific educational fields, for example, languages, or must proposals deal with general educational issues? And related to this, to what extent does the topic distinguish between public investments and private or mixed ones?
So thank you for the questions and for the interest. I will clarify that that is perfectly possible to choose. So you could choose languages or another or any educational field. So what is important, you can be specific or you can be a bit more comprehensive and choose something more general. What is important in the expected outcome, and this is the aim, is to improve learning outcomes and to improve measures of equity and inclusion in education and training systems. So this can be done with a focus on languages or broader or with another focus on languages. This is for you to decide, but it's important to focus on improving learning outcomes and measures of equity and inclusion, and to identify how best to do this. So this is what really counts. And in terms of investment, what we have in mind, this is going to guide us to guide a little bit how to focus the public investment in education and training, but it's a matter of investment. So in fact, it's general. So we'll be interested also if it covers private investments. But to clarify that the main aim is about to guide a little bit the coordination of policies on education and training at the EU level that focus more. But private is very important, for example, for higher education or for adult learning. So it can be included. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you, Nuria. There are more to come. Your topics are very successful this afternoon, probably related to your answer you just gave on topic 5. Should the project cover all levels of education, all types of educational institutions, say by ownership, and both economic and social outputs of education? I think you did hint at this, but if maybe we can come back on this. And if I may add 2 more questions which are probably related. Who should be considered as the main stakeholders for the outcomes under this topic? Should they be mainly European or national or regional educational authorities? And more generally, does the topic require collaboration with authorities for these 2 calls, meaning with ministries of education and training?
Thank you. So thanks a lot for the interest. In fact, it's open on the idea of which levels of education or which topics. It's very, very open. So you can select a level of education, or you can cover several levels of education. And it's education and training, in fact, I should be saying. So it's really the whole range from the earliest level to adult learning. So it's broad. You can select, you can be specific, you can be comprehensive. It's up to you to decide. So the main stakeholders are indeed the authorities that are responsible for education. So could be local, in fact, local authorities, regional, national level. So these are the main authorities with whom you should seek a collaboration. And I think I've replied to the two questions at once, but please add more questions on Slido if you still need some clarification.
Yes, more questions coming in again on the CSA2 towards sustainable economic policy paradigms. The question is, do you expect the national statistical offices to participate as beneficiaries in the CSA? Simona, if you can take this again, and maybe they come.
Yeah.
I have one. Yes, maybe let's answer that first, and then I come back to Alessia. A question for you.
Yes, of course. They are public bodies. There are no special rules for statistical institutes, so they can definitely be beneficiaries.
Okay. That was clear and sharp and concise. Alessia, one question regarding topic 9, addressing housing inequalities. The question is, when guidance to policymakers is expected, is it encouraged to link the recommendations to Interreg projects or to policy recommendations from Interreg projects? That's what I understand. Can you answer that question?
Yes, sure. Thank you. So we do expect the proposals to also provide policy recommendations linked to both past trends, with the lessons we have learned based on the impacts of COVID-19, also on the recent wave of inflation, on the housing market, on housing inequalities in general, on the polarization of wealth, on the level of housing affordability. So they should. This is where we do expect policy lessons for policymakers, and we also expect the proposals for policymakers to come in a more forward-looking manner, taking into account also the challenges that are imposed by the twin green and digital transitions, and the lessons learned at the local level by the different experiences that our territories show. That's what I would say.
Thank you. I'd like to regroup 3 questions which are asked in relation to the twin transition in topic 10. Also follow-up questions to previous questions. A general question is regarding the twin transition. Within this destination, what's the relevant emphasis between Fit for 55 and the digital decade? Is the former the priority, so the Fit for 55, compared to the digital decade? Related questions to topic 10. Is it recommended to use existing methodologies, indicators, and so on, or should new ones be built? Are you looking to integrate existing data? And related to this, I'm not sure I fully... a general question basically to help clarify the focus of the call of topic 10, innovation and question mark. So I'm not sure if you can probably... If we don't get the answer right, clarify the question, what we are missing. And related to topic 10, still I regroup them further to the previous query. Can we look at inequalities between, for example, businesses as well as between individual societal groups? The question before was that many individuals are the target groups. Can this be changed? Can one look at either other groups, businesses, or societal groups instead of individuals? I believe so, yes, but Simona, Alessia, I don't know if you have to add to those. Please come in.
Yeah, the second one is yes, as before, as long as it helps to contribute to the expected outcomes, which is mainly to provide policymakers with a comprehensive view of risks policy options. So as long as it makes sense, please take them into account. As for before, they're very relevant actors in the European economy, and as such, they have consequences in the social sphere. Concerning the first question, it's up to you. Actually, it's up to you. We do not explicitly request for new methodologies. If you think that methodologies already available are enough in order to provide replies to the expected outcome, to contribute to the expected outcome, it's fine like this. If you think that some developments will be better in order to reply to the question, to reach the expected outcomes asked, then we have nothing against. We know that it's a relatively new field, so there are at the beginning there were not a lot of tools and models in order to make assessments. Now there has been a proliferation of those, but this doesn't mean that we rule out possible improvements of developments. And so if you think that's something you can achieve something better, please do it. It's definitely something that we will not disregard. Also, let me just, because there is a problem with the question that has been inserted several times, and we cancel, but because just a clarification, today is the info day for 2023. So there is a question that is coming again and again on the arts and cultural awareness and expression, education and training. This is included in the work program 2024. So the question is always about 0108 and related education and training, and 0108 today in this session is integrated care solutions. So just to clarify on this point as well.
Thank you very much. By all means, I support the point that please bring in new methodologies, indicators in these research projects. By all means, it's good to use existing ones where we're relevant, but obviously it's open to improvements. And similarly, I understand that at least the work we do ourselves, looking at, for example, distributional impacts of the green transition or the digital transition, we certainly also do look at societal groups, be it income groups or others. The region dimension was mentioned as well, so I think that's obviously also a relevant research angle I would see covered by the call. There was a question on topic 1, which I would like to take up, also to bring in Thais. Is there an interest to cover as many countries or urban and rural areas as possible, and that's how I understand it, as many countries as possible / or urban rural areas? And there was a general question, I don't know who wishes to take this more generally in this destination. Is it necessary or even mandatory to have policymakers, policy authorities to participate in the consortia?
Thank you, Frank. I'll take the question on number 1 first. Indeed, the topic seeks to have a focus on the rural and urban divide. So we would say it is to cover as many countries as possible, but of course taking into account regional specificity. So for instance, by a breakdown between NUTS 2 and 3, but indeed covering as many countries as possible while taking into account rural and urban divide, so regional specificities. I hope it has been clear.
Thank you very much. Somebody who wants to answer the question of Michael, to bring in you, if you feel you can answer on this one. Is it mandatory to have policy authorities as part of research consortia?
No.
Or maybe.
Sorry.
Sure, however.
perhaps I can, because perhaps it's something I said before about the education topics, where I said that the cooperation with responsible authorities is a requirement. So this is, it's up to you how to decide and how to design the consortium. It's not obligatory how you do it. What is important is that you explain in the proposal how you're going to cooperate, and that you have the agreement of the responsible authority or the intention to cooperate with you during the research. So it's not a formal requirement to be part of the consortium in one way or another, but for you to explain in the proposal how you're going to collaborate. I hope this was at least part of the explanation.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless I'm mistaken, Andrea, tell me, I think we have covered the questions coming in. Anything we have overlooked, or if we have overlooked a question, please don't hesitate to resubmit it again, that we do not miss it now. Yes, there's one question again, Nuria, regarding topics 5 and 6. Follow-up question. Beyond accessing useful data, is the collaboration with authorities intended to raise their awareness on results of the analysis?
Yeah, this is a good point. This is very useful. So this can be definitely part of the proposal. What is important, for example, in topic 6, that you have that we're interested in this databases surveys with longitudinal design, is that you have access to these databases, which is why sometimes the collaboration with the authorities can be in the form of being sure that you can access this data in an anonymized form in whichever way, but that you can access it to carry out the assessment. Equally, for the topic 5 on the efficiency and effectiveness of education, it's important to also have the collaboration, so that it's going to be also useful for the policymakers.
Thank you. Follow-up question on topic 6. The call does not say how many countries the analysis should cover. Is the recommendation from your side?
There's no recommendation, so it's up to you.
Okay. One question regarding topic 8 for Diana, for you. There's a reference to the new European Bauhaus. What should be the role of the new European Bauhaus under this topic, and how should it be should it be integrated? How should it be integrated?
I'm sorry, I'm talking about integrated care, long-term care, and what is the relevance of this Bauhaus? I do not understand the question, sorry. Maybe it can be explained better.
Okay. I do not see a follow-up question now. I see.
Yeah, I can reply on this. This is the same mistake of before. The reference to Bauhaus to Transformation 0108 refers to Horizon Cluster 2 2024, Arts and Cultural Awareness and Expression, Education and Training. There is indeed, there are references to new European Bauhaus initiatives. But again, today we're talking about 2023, and 0108 is about long-term care. So I don't know if Nuria, in case you want already to reply to this, but it's a bit beyond the scope of the meeting today. You still have more than 1 year in order to prepare to this topic.
Okay. I see one follow-up question. Thank you, Simone, on topic 5 from Austria, if I see correctly. The topic is about investment, while the expected outcomes are mainly about policy measures, which would be much broader than mere investments. Can you comment on this, or do you have any advice?
Yes, so it's true that policies are broader than investments, but what is important to keep in mind is that we think about the investments that are associated with the policies and with the measures. So we're looking at a measure or an intervention that will have some impacts, and we want to see the associated cost or investment. And this is how I hope this is clarifying. So while the objective is about the investment, we mean the resources that are necessary to implement the measures, the interventions, or the policies. And in the work, you can look at the policies in a much broader sense.
Okay. We have a few minutes left. I'm not sure there are more questions. One last chance. If you want to resubmit a question, Andrea, please signal to me if there are more questions. Otherwise, we can wrap up the session. If there are any questions we have not been able to answer in this context, please don't forget that you can address your questions to the national contact points, or also through the Research Inquiry Service, and that will provide answers in writing under the FAQ section to these questions, also any follow-up questions you may have. With this, I think we have reached the end of our very interesting, very lively session. We're looking very much forward to proposals on these essential, policy relevant, and very innovative topics. And with this, wish you all the best and look forward to our further cooperation. Thanks to all colleagues in the call. Thank you for your answers. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.